What's up, Flaniverse? We are back once again, just a couple hours after my morning show with Adam, back to break down this two-game slate once again. I'm going to start by going over the two-gamer, and then I will be doing a little bit of Showdown, also make my lineups on the stream. So we'll take a look at what everything looks like for the Showdown slates, make sure I get the main slate and the first Showdown slate done before lock, and then maybe I'll get the second Showdown done before lock also. But if I do that one after lock, we'll see if I have time. I'll get done as much as I can here. As usual, going to be going position by position, starting with quarterbacks, then running backs, receivers, tight ends, defenses, and once we do the showdowns, we'll talk about some kickers there. Also, I'll take any questions that you have as we go. I will be making my lineups on stream as well, starting with the two-gamer, and then again, we'll get into the showdown stuff as well. What is up, everybody? Good to see you here. Thank you. Good thumbnail. I don't remember what the thumbnail looks like, but I tried. Good reminder from Dan here. Yeah, please do like the video if you have not already done so. That is very helpful for me. And if you're not already subscribed, I'm trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL season. Could use your support. I'm doing 4 hours of streaming or so on this channel today. So putting the work in, would appreciate the support. I don't know if you saw, we do have some, we don't have inactives yet, so we don't really know anything yet different from what Adam and I knew earlier, except that Chris Rodriguez showed up to the stadium in what appeared to be athletic gear. Looks like he is maybe going to play, which we kind of assumed he was not going to play on this morning show. Looking more likely that Chris Rodriguez does play. And they also didn't call up any other running backs from the practice squad. We thought maybe Chase Edmonds would be called up from the practice squad. That did not happen. So it does look like Chris Rodriguez is likelier to play at this point. They also did call up a couple receivers from the practice squad. The Commanders did. So we'll have to keep an eye on inactives. There is a chance that Deebo Samuel is actually not going to play today. We had been assuming that he was going to play tonight. He didn't practice on Saturday, which is normally a bad sign, but it's kind of hard to read because he had been kind of going through that same pattern. So there's a chance we're not going to get Deebo tonight. It is going to be something we need to really keep an eye on inactives. But we should have just got inactives for the first game. So I started this game a little bit earlier than usual, the show a little bit earlier than usual. So let me look up inactives for the first game, make sure nothing is weird there before we get into it. So we can start with, it's the Bills game, right? Bills-Falcons. All right. Let me just read off the inactives, see if we have anybody who is relevant to us. Curtis Samuel is inactive. Okay, I was not expecting Curtis Samuel. I mean, he was questionable. Dalton Kincaid is inactive. Curtis Samuel, Dalton Kincaid, both inactive. Okay, that is big news. Man, that was unexpected. I thought they both came in. They did warm-ups, and both Curtis Samuel and Dalton Kincaid inactive. Matt Milano still inactive. So we're already getting some big news here. Dawson Knox going to look a little bit better for the Bills. Obviously, all of the kind of tertiary receivers for the Bills look a little bit better with Curtis Samuel out. Interesting. Okay, and then we have the Falcons inactives as well. Let me look that up. This is why I normally do this. Ray McLeod is inactive. I normally don't start the shows until we get inactives. That's big news too, Ray McLeod. So we're getting a lot more news than I was expecting. Nathan Carter also inactive for what it's worth. The third string running back for the Falcons. Okay, that's big. That's some big news to start. Yeah, Truman Show. I actually have not watched Truman Show as an adult. It's just what I think of when I'm on camera constantly, which during this NFL season, I'm streaming literally 7 days a week. There's not a day of the week that you cannot find me doing content during NFL season. Oh, love that. Gary says that he got shared first place with Lil Jordan Humphrey on Thursday. That is great to hear. Yeah, that one went well. I think there were some others that did not go so well. Some of my other takes on that one, but yeah, Lil Jordan Humphrey, somebody I like quite a bit. So glad to hear that worked out for you. Also glad that I have not made my lineups yet today because I would have had to redo a lot here. Schefter reporting that Deebo Samuel is likely active. We got Curtis out. Now I guess we get Deebo in. Maybe we'll see. I have not seen the Schefter reporting, but that's good news. I mean, after seeing that they called up some practice squad players, I was thinking that was going to be kind of a mess that we're going to have to work through later on. Yeah, I'm not seeing in writing. I'm just looking on Twitter right now to find what you're talking about, but I'll believe that he just said it on TV or something. Must be where you saw that. But we'll get there. We'll start with quarterbacks. I was going to run the Sims pretty early on here, but I want to give the Run the Sims team time to update things on their end. So I'm not going to run the Sims quite yet. I'm just going to get into the position by position breakdown. So we'll start with the 2-gamer here. Maybe I'll do just maybe I'm changing my mind. Maybe I'll just do one that's like not that many lineups for a small field. No, I'm going to do. I am going to run the Sims right now, and then I'll rerun them after because I want to see what I get to naturally with their inputs. I kind of think this is something I want to start doing is running the Sims early in the show to see what comes in right away, so that we can talk about like what am I getting to, why do I think we're getting to, this kind of exposure, and then I can adjust as I see fit. So I'm going to do, actually, I'll do the actual number of lineups that I'm playing. Which is 171. For the classic slate. So I'm going to run this right away. But then getting into the quarterbacks, and we can talk about the schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed first. So starting at the top on this slate, great matchup for Caleb Williams. This is the 6th best overall matchup for quarterbacks against Washington. Also a great matchup for Jaden Daniels. It is the 8th best overall matchup, and particularly a strong matchup for rushing quarterbacks. You have to scroll down a bit to find a pretty tough matchup for Josh Allen, and then fairly tough matchup for Michael Penix. Also looks like it is a bottom 9 matchup, if I'm counting right here, for quarterbacks against Buffalo. Even tougher through the air, better on the ground against Buffalo, which that doesn't really benefit Michael Penix, who just doesn't run that much. Anyway, we do have at least 2 pretty strong rushing quarterbacks here in Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels. Actually, let me pull up my article for some notes that I've taken here. Josh Allen, 212 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns already on the season through 5 games. So that is over 40 rushing yards per game, 3 touchdowns in 5 games, 3 rushing touchdowns. Pretty strong. Jaden Daniels, no rushing touchdowns yet, but he does have 124 rushing yards in, I believe, in 3 games. So still rushing over 40 yards per game. I assume the touchdowns will come. Caleb Williams running a little bit. I think he had some spikes early on, but 110 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown in 4 games. So, under 30 rushing yards per game. Not like a 0 in the rushing department, but not rushing much. And then Michael Penix, just 31 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown in 4 games. So not much of a runner at all. So 2 elites, 1 kind of a mid-tier runner in Caleb Williams, and then Michael Penix doesn't run much at all. As far as how I'm prioritizing the running backs on this slate now, we'll see what I get to. I would imagine that it's going to be similar to what Adam was getting to earlier, which would be more Josh Allen. I mean, that's interesting that Michael Penix popped at the top here. Again, these lineups not in order of EV because I'm using the Shady Portfolio Optimizer tool. I'm going to be getting the best portfolio of lineups with 171 lineups rather than just the top EV lineups straight down the list. Looking at my exposures at the quarterback position, if I were just simming it right now, what it looks like is Josh Allen is my most exposed quarterback, followed by Jaden Daniels, 41% Josh Allen, 31% Jaden Daniels, 16% Caleb Williams, 11% Michael Penix. I'd say I'm generally okay with fading Penix. I think that I'd like more than this of Caleb Williams. I think this is a spot where I'm going to IKB it a little bit to get to more Caleb Williams, just because I think this is such a strong matchup with Washington. And I think Caleb Williams, like regardless of what you think of him as a quarterback, he's shown the ability to put up some big fantasy scores. And I like that he brings along pass catchers with him when he does have big games. He's going to bring pass catchers along with him. Also think I kind of like some of his pass catching options. So just an angle that I'm going to play is getting a little bit overweight on Caleb Williams. And then I'll probably lose a bit of Josh Allen as a result, but I think I'm okay with that. Just and you don't really need the salary here, as Adam and I talked about earlier. He's a lot cheaper, 2,000 cheaper than Josh Allen, and it's easy to play most of the players you want, even with Josh Allen. But it still helps you some to have that price savings of $2,000. You're going to be a little bit easier to get to, both of James Cook and Bijan Robinson with Drake London and Romo Dunze. Like that, that's tough to do if you also have Josh Allen in there. So I like playing some through Caleb Williams. That's really my only take on the quarterbacks, is that I think I want to have more Caleb Williams than I'm getting to naturally. Which I don't want to have less of Josh Allen or Jaden Daniels, but you kind of have to sacrifice somewhere. So I'll probably get to a little bit less Josh Allen than I'm getting to right now. Is kind of the way I'd rather play it. Keep the Jaden Daniels, lose a little bit of Josh Allen. It is possible that Jaden Daniels going to run a little bit less because he has been hampered by injury already this year. So that is maybe something we need to look at. Actually, let me look at his game log real quick. He did play in week 5. I guess he rushed for 39 yards in that game. So, more concerned about it going into that game. But the fact that he ran 8 times for 39 yards last week probably means that he's not going to be hampered by injury. We don't have to worry about it. Yes, Kincaid is out. Ray is out. You're both right. They're both out. They're inactive, so they cannot play. So you don't need to worry about. I mean, you have to worry about who you're going to play instead of Ray McLeod and Dalton Kincaid if they were priorities for you. But yeah, quarterback, honest, I don't think we need to talk about it that much, just because you only have 4 options. There's not that much to say about them. Can't get too interesting. Definitely don't play like a backup quarterback. I guess I'll say that. You also, I'll say you can play defenses against your quarterback, so don't be afraid to play Josh Allen and the Atlanta defense, or however you want to play it. Caleb Williams with the Washington defense, all of that is totally viable on a 2-game slate. Not something I would try to avoid at all. I'm guessing if we let's look at our top graded lineup, see if we actually get any. Josh Allen against the Falcons. That is the 5th lineup. You get the quarterback against the opposing defense. You can see here, these are, I have to redo this because we're getting Kincaid in here. This is not updated for the news we have. I'm going to have to refresh, run the Sims, and do this again. But just wanted to start off the conversation, give them some time to get the Sims updated. Let's move on to running backs. I don't think I have anything else to add on quarterbacks, but I think I would rank them, like, as far as who I expect to get to the most, it would be Josh Allen, followed by Jaden Daniels, followed by Caleb Williams. And I don't expect to have as big of a split between those 3 as I'm currently getting. So maybe I'll get to, let me think what I would aim for is maybe 25% of Caleb Williams, 30% each of Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels, and then 15% Michael Penix, maybe 40%. Maybe that's what I want. 40% Josh Allen, 35% Jaden Daniels. I'm doing my math wrong. I'm getting too much. This is too high of a number. 35% Josh Allen, 25%, 30% Jaden Daniels, 25% Caleb Williams, 10%. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm not going to do the math, but somewhere around there for my quarterback exposures. Yeah, Steven, thanks for the reminder. I would like it if you hit the like button. That would be very much appreciated. By the way, also, if you are not already signed up for Run the Sims, I just saw that some other Sims products are maybe having issues right now. If you want to try out a new Sims product tonight, you can use Run the Sims. Use promo code Neil to get 10% off your first payment on any product at Run the Sims. Do you like Elijah or Knox better? Is Elijah more active? First of all, I know he's not on the inactives. I need to. He was not even in the projections earlier, as I recall. So I did not look into what Elijah Moore's status is. Like, is he actually? He hasn't been playing, so he's not somebody that I really had on my radar. So I honestly don't even know what his status is. If he is is he on the practice squad? Is he on the active roster? I assume he's on the active roster, but I will want to verify that. I guess he didn't play last week. He had been playing prior to that. So I guess my assumption is that he is active. In which case you can play him. Probably Knox would be my preference between the two of them, because I think Elijah Moore is still playing behind Shakir, Coleman, and Palmer, whereas Knox just steps right into that top tight end role. All right, running backs. So currently getting to 92% Bijan Robinson, 82% Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. I also think his projection is going to come down because Chris Rodriguez looks like he's probably going to be active. So we're probably going to lose a bit of the projection on Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. Only getting to 27% James Cook currently, 41% DeAndre Swift, 19% Tyler Algier, 2% Jeremy McNichols, none of Kyle Monungai, Ty Johnson, or Ray Davis. So Bijan Robinson, like I'll take 90+%. Bijan Robinson, the workload is just awesome. Wait. Yeah, Kincaid is not playing. We have confirmed. Just want to make sure everybody knows. Yes, Kincaid is not playing. Oh yeah, and then Hawes also. That's a good call. We'll get to tight ends, but Jackson Hawes will become viable also. Yeah, I mean, look at this. They have projected for 81% ownership, still getting to 92%, even with a projection of 81. So the Sims are saying, yeah, he's getting a ton of ownership. He's going to be super chalky. You should still play him because we only have 4 running back options on this slate, and the workload is just elite for Bijan Robinson. I'm going to switch back and forth Bijan versus Bijan because he says that he likes it both ways. Like, this is how it's supposed to be said. I like it though when people call me Bijan. So I guess I'll just keep switching back and forth. But on the season, 4 games, 64 rush attempts. So that's 16 rushing attempts per game for Bijan Robinson, just under 6 targets per game on 77% route participation. It's like a wide receiver 2 kind of numbers plus a running back, like a not like a top end running back, 16 carries per game, but like pretty strong workload. And it's pretty consistent also with Bijan Robinson. Like you can't game script him out. Like it's going to be rare that he doesn't put up a lot of fantasy points. Actually, let's look at his fantasy points scored report so far this year. I feel like he might have had 1 dud, but I don't even know if it would qualify as a dud on a 2-game slate. Yeah, I mean, any of these numbers, like 24.4, 19.8, 16.1, 28.1, even the 16.1, you're not that mad about that on a 2-game slate. Like that could be the highest scoring running back on this slate. So I think it makes sense to get to 80+% Bijan Robinson. If you fade him, you're really hoping for an injury. Obviously, other running backs can outscore him, and but it's pretty unlikely that we're going to have multiple, like 3 running backs outscore him. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So other than Bijan, who is he's the clear top option on the slate, he's 8,200, so he's expensive, different tier in terms of pricing. Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, I had kind of considered him in that same tier as Bijan, where it's just like, yeah, play him all the time. With Chris Rodriguez back, I do think that muddles things a little bit for Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. Now, he has had a pretty strong workload. And let's see, let's go to, I guess this is fantasy points scored, which, I mean, we can look at his Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, 28 fantasy points in the last game. Prior to that, his season high had been 14.2, which you take that all day. I don't know that you would take any of these other scores necessarily at his price tag, maybe 10.1. Obviously, you would love 28 from Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. But in terms of snap share for Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, where is it? So 50.9 is where he has, that's his peak in week 5. That's the most we've seen from Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. Maybe that goes up. I do think like he's going to get the best workload, most likely, of all the Commanders running backs. Like that has been kind of the trend, that he is their top back. Let me look. Let me read the Coach Speak Index. Because I was a little bit, concerned about the Coach Speak. Like it makes me think maybe it's not as much of a sure thing. So on the 9th, offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, on what has impressed him the most about Bill Croskey-Merritt, he said the work ethic first and foremost. He doesn't make the same mistake twice. I don't think this is the actual quote. Throughout camp, when he touched the ball, good things happened. He still has a ways to go away from the ball, but just a constant improvement earned him more touches. He has to keep working to become a complete back, but since he got here, he tends to do good things with the ball when he touches it. He can make plays when it's not blocked up and there's nothing there. He always wants more work. He believes in himself and has a high confidence level. He has a big chip on his shoulder. I guess all of that is pretty positive. Maybe suggests that they think he could take on more work. But the more concerning quote was on the 6th, on what Quinn and offense coordinator Cliff Kingsbury saw in Croskey-Merritt that made them decide to feature the rookie yesterday. So this is after their last game. He said, as the gap schemes continued to have some success inside, we leaned right into it. He had a good week of practice leading into the game, so we thought it was time for him to earn some more. It really came from him improving in the system and having a great week going into the game. We think there's a lot of upside and high ceiling for him. Okay, that is also not a negative quote. So post-game presser after the last game, here's what it is. Dan Quinn said, on Bill Croskey-Merritt getting lead back treatment, he said, I really felt him in the run and pass game. We said before that this might happen where somebody gets hot and they take more reps. He had the most today. We'll continue to build and see where we take it from here. Now, as Adam and I discussed earlier, like it hasn't really been a hot hand approach. Like they seem to be wanting to give Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt more opportunities. Even when Chris Rodriguez runs well, it tends to be Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt getting more work. But like we don't have a huge sample size that this is going to continue at this rate where he is like the clear lead back. I think that there is like there's more risk here than there is for a more established running back. So I do think that he's a really strong play. He is probably still my second favorite running back play on the slate, but I don't feel that I want to get to over 80% Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. To me, he's more like I'll shoot for maybe 60 to 70% with Chris Rodriguez there. Like I think if the field's at 57%, I think I'd like to be above that number probably, but I don't feel strongly enough that he's like guaranteed to get the workload that I want to put all of my lineups at risk with him. If you wanted to, I think that is reasonable. If you just think like, no, like they've shown that he's the lead back and I believe in the talent and it's a great matchup, that is totally fine. But to me, he's more like a 60 to 70% guy for me, is how much I want. In terms of the matchup, elite matchup for Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, third best against Chicago in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to running backs. They allow a lot through the air and on the ground. So love to see that for Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. Again, I think he's my second favorite running back on the slate, all things considered, with ownership, with price tag, all of that. But I do think that there's more risk, whereas Bijan Robinson, it's like as long as he's healthy, like he's going to get his. He's going to be involved in the running game, the passing game, whatever. He looks great. Then you've got James Cook. He's 7,100, projected for 69% ownership. That is kind of a lot. I don't know that I'd call that nice, but so I didn't get to a lot in this first run of the Sims. I certainly would not. I don't like having just 27% James Cook. I think you can afford it. I would rather get to more by paying down for more wide receivers. So this is something that I need to adjust. I'd like to get to more James Cook than I'm getting to currently. I think that he is a pretty strong play with a pretty strong workload, especially this year. It's been even better than last year. Just look at his workload relative to the other running backs on the Bills. 90 carries through 5 games. That's 18 carries per game, plus 14 targets, so just under 3 targets per game on 43.4% route participation. On a great offense. So like on some offenses, you're like 18 carries and 3 targets. Maybe doesn't excite you as much on the Browns. It's still a really strong workload, but not as exciting. But on the Bills, like you're just going to score a lot of touchdowns. You're going to score a lot of fantasy points on this offense. Maybe gets even more involved in the passing game with Dalton Kincaid and Curtis Samuel out. I think James Cook looks really strong here. He would be my third favorite running back on the slate. Pretty close with Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. Like I think it's Bijan Robinson tier 1. I think these two are the second tier, Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt and James Cook. He's expensive enough and getting enough ownership that he's kind of in the same tier as Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt for me. As far as the matchup for James Cook, second worst matchup with Atlanta. So there's a negative for James Cook. But on this offense, and he's really talented. I mean, you just watch him play. He looks like a pretty elite running back who just doesn't really get credit for being an elite running back. But every time I watch the Bills play, he's making plays out there. So yeah, I think he's right there, like with Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt in that second tier. And then you've got DeAndre Swift is, again, I would say, in a tier of his own. 5,500, getting under 50% ownership for a starting running back. Again, the workload pretty strong for DeAndre Swift. 56 targets, that is what, 14 carries, 14 carries per game so far for DeAndre Swift. Also 17 targets in 4 games, so over 4 targets per game on 49.7% route participation. Not a great matchup for running backs against Washington so far. This is the 8th worst schedule adjusted matchup in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. So don't love that for DeAndre Swift, but the price tag, the workload is still pretty good. It's not as good as the other starting running backs here, but that's not a bad workload. And he is the cheapest of the group, and getting the lowest ownership. So if I end up with, 30 to 40% DeAndre Swift, I think I'm okay with that. He's not the biggest priority for me. I might end up a little bit under the field here. And I'm getting to 41% in this first run of the Sims. So not the biggest priority, but I think that he is, again, in a clear tier of his own. And then there's a pretty big drop off after the top 4. So we have the 4 like starting running backs. Tyler Algier, I also think, is in a tier of his own. He is 4,700. Tyler Algier has actually had a pretty strong workload. It's funny because Bijan Robinson has the clearest workload. Like, he is game script proof, looks great. But Tyler Algier, 4 games, 43 carries. He's averaging just under 11 carries per game so far this year. Only under 1 target per game is not great, but the running game workload is there for Algier. Also, and I don't think I noted this with Bijan, but it is not a great matchup overall for running backs against Atlanta. Again, this is the 2nd worst matchup. Wait, no, that's wrong. Like 10th worst or so matchup or 11th worst, I think, matchup against Buffalo's run defense overall. But it's a really bad matchup for running backs through the air, negative 5.4 fantasy points. And it's the 5th best matchup for running backs on the ground. So running backs have actually been able to run on Buffalo. They just have not scored a lot of fantasy points through the air. Maybe that's fluky. We're still dealing with a relatively small sample size here, but so far running backs have actually had success on the ground against Buffalo. We're getting 11 carries per game for Tyler Algier. Maybe he scores a touchdown. He looks pretty good I'm getting to 19% after this first run. That is with him projected for 2% ownership. So I think that's why I'm getting to so much. It's just if you're only getting 2% for a guy getting this kind of workload, he's going to look pretty good. Algier certainly capable of spike weeks. No, Alex, Curtis Samuel, Kincaid are both out. I almost feel like I'm being trolled at this point. Everybody keeps asking about them. No, but they're both inactive. No word on Loveland yet. We'll get the Commanders and Bears we should get those in about half an hour is when we'll get those inactives. So we got inactives for the first game. We do not have inactives for the second game yet. Tyler Algier looks like a clear tier behind the top 4, but I think he is the best of the backup running backs. Jeremy McNichols, now it's kind of even grosser. I think he's playable, but with Chris Rodriguez back, potentially back in again. We don't know that for sure yet, but he showed up in athletic gear to the stadium. Looks like Chris Rodriguez probably going to play. Let's see. Let's look at the snap share report for the Commanders. So since Austin Eckler has been out, so he played weeks 1 and 2 over the past 3 weeks, again, it's been Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. Chris Rodriguez actually 39, and then just 24% over the past 3 games. Jeremy McNichols, 24, 33, and 24% snap share. I'm just going to pull up the bell cow report for the past 3 games without Austin Eckler. So over, looking at the whole 3 games without Austin Eckler, 29 carries for Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, 23 for Chris Rodriguez. So actually not that far behind. 5 targets for JCM, none for Rodriguez. And then McNichols, 7 carries in those 3 games, 4 targets on 29.4% route participation. It's tougher to get there with Chris Rodriguez back. Like I was planning on playing a bit of Jeremy McNichols, and maybe even forcing some in. I don't know that I'm going to do that now with Chris Rodriguez back. I think you can make a case for it. I guess it's a strong matchup with Chicago, projecting for 7% ownership. It's just it was easier when you thought when I thought we are gonna have Chris Rodriguez out, and so it's like, all right, it's not as much of an obstacle to get him to a real workload at that point if they're just able to have a lot of success on the ground. Maybe they run more with Jeremy McNichols. He is capable of big plays. He busted off what a 50, 60-yard touchdown already this year. So I think he's somebody to have in a player pool in 150. I don't think he would make my player pool in 20 lineups. I think if I were just playing 20 lineups, I would probably only have these top 5 running backs. I would get to some Algier. I get to all the starters. I don't think I get to Jeremy McNichols in a 20 lineup set because I think we have some better wide receiver contrarian plays that we can play instead. I mean, he's a fine if you want to play. If you're in like a 20 max, not many people are going to have him. If you want to just bet on getting a 50-yard touchdown and a handful of receptions, I think that's viable. Like he could put up 15 fantasy points, and honestly, that could be the highest scoring running back on the slate, the second highest scoring. But this is not a spot like RJ Harvey was, where I was like, I love this spot. I think he's actually got a pretty good shot of putting up big points. This is a three-headed monster where I think Jacory Croskey-Merritt is the lead back, and then it's just kind of the rest to McNichols and Chris Rodriguez. If we get news that Chris Rodriguez is out, I will be back in and want to play more of Jeremy McNichols. But as of right now, I'm probably just going to play a handful of lineups with him in my 171 lineups. Kyle Monangai, I think, is playable. Somebody that I would consider in a 150 set. Again, would not play him if I were just playing 20 lineups. But in a 150 set, I think the best case you can make for Kyle Monangai is, and I guess I'll just leave it up with just the past 3 games, which would be just 2 games for Monangai, but that's his most recent 2 games, maybe the most indicative. So over the past, oh no, this is sorry, for the entire season, 4 games, 17 carries, 4 targets. Let's see, just the last 2 games, 10 carries. So he's getting, over the past 2 weeks, 5 carries per game, 1 target on 23% route participation in those games. I think the strongest case you can make for Kyle Monangai is DeAndre Swift has not been amazing. The coaches have acknowledged that DeAndre Swift has not been amazing. We actually have some coach speak recently on DeAndre Swift. On the September 29th, Ben Johnson said, "I don't think our running struggles were a reflection of DeAndre Swift. I think he continues to run the ball very hard, even though the yards per carry aren't where any of us want it to be right now. I don't think everybody on offense is pulling their weight yet, myself included." So he's saying the right things of like, it's not DeAndre's fault. We're all to blame for the running game being bad, but also like he's noticing that the running game is not great right now. And now you've got, they just had their bye week. So I think the best case you can make for Kyle Monangai is post bye rookie bump combined with the the incumbent not doing that well so far this year. So if you want to make the bet that now it's going to be a committee and Kyle Monangai going to take on a bigger workload, he could score a touchdown. He's min priced. I think that he is a fine option for large field tournaments. Again, I think I'll probably have some in a 150 set. I don't think I would get there in my first 20 lineups. And then Ty Johnson, Ray Davis. I don't feel great about it. Neither of them has had much of a workload so far this year. It's compared to last year where they both kind of had their roles. This year, it has not really been the case for either of Ty Johnson or Ray Davis. Ty Johnson just 10 carries through 5 games, so 2 carries per game, 4 total targets, under 1 target per game. That's kind of what you're counting on with Ty Johnson, is those targets. He has run 28% of routes. So I think there's still an opportunity there. He'll probably have spike weeks at some point this year. But Ray Davis, I think, is maybe unplayable on this slate. 13 carries on the season through 5 games, just 2 targets and 7% route participation. You're hoping for a James Cook injury before Ray Davis really becomes viable. So I think I won't play any Ray Davis today. Again, you can play whatever you want on a 2-game slate. He's not like completely off the menu, but I don't think that Ray Davis is somebody that I'm going to go to. Whereas Ty Johnson, I think, is somewhat more interesting because he has that passing game role, 28% route participation, can just luck into a, hey, Josh Allen scrambles and Ty Johnson's the guy who gets open for him, and then score a touchdown, and suddenly you're looking great. So I think Ty Johnson's somebody to have in 150 lineup set, but again, probably don't get there in 20 lineups. So I think as far as like how I would rank them, it's Bijan Robinson. I'm just going to rank every running back here. Bijan Robinson, number 1, probably James Cook, number 2, then Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, then DeAndre Swift, then Tyler Algier. And then after that group, it is no huge priorities, but I think I would go Jeremy McNichols, Kyle Monangai, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, just in this exact order. I think that's exactly how I see the running backs here. Let me check in on chat, see if you have any questions before I move on to wide receivers. Let's see. Drake or Rome is a good question. I think my current lean is probably Rome for the matchup. It's close though. What's up, Daniel? Good to see you. I love you too. Okay, Deeg says projections just updated, pretty much industry wide. All right, I will probably rerun the Sims then. Let me just check in. Let me check on them before I run them. That's good. Good question. What's the chances Chris Rodriguez is just active but doesn't play? I don't think JCM's ownership will fall enough to be more overweight. What are the chances? I mean, I guess I don't know what the chances are exactly, but yeah, it's a possibility. I don't know why they would do that. Why they would have him active if he's not healthy enough to play. Like they don't want to waste a roster spot on somebody who can't play. But it's possible that they're just like, hey, we'll have him here. We can play him in case of emergency. We prefer Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt anyway. I suppose that is a possibility that they're not really planning on playing him much for sure. All right. Swish says, this is not a bad idea. Neil, here's an idea. You could update your ticker with injury updates before or during the stream so that people quit asking. At some point, it's tough to like manage that kind of stuff while streaming, but I don't hate that idea. Could save myself a bit. Ed Oliver back for Buffalo. That's good shout out. That probably does help their rush D. I think that he was their top rated rush defender when he was hurt, if I'm remembering correctly. All right. His name is Bill. You're right. Bill Croskey-Merritt. Easier to say. I always also will be easier going forward just when writing about him, because I always struggle with where does the Ja'Cory have the E or does the Croskey have an E in it? And if I can just call him Bill Croskey-Merritt, I'll get used to it. I'm pretty sure the Croskey has an E in it, and it'll be easier to remember. All right, moving on to wide receivers. Does Kincaid being out change your Cook ownership? Atlanta rush defense is tough. Thinking more quick passes, Cook. I agree. I think that it could benefit Cook. If anything, to me, it's a positive. Yes. All right, on to wide receivers. But actually, before I get to wide receivers, let me rerun this. So I'm gonna refresh. Make sure everything's up to date, and then rerun the Sims. I think Kincaid looks like he's still in here. It's possible this is it's just not cosmetically changed, but want to make sure. Yeah, looks like he's still in. So I'm gonna go through the wide receivers and then I'll rerun again after. Let's see, I'll go here. And there is a chance that Deebo Samuel is out, so I need to note that right away. Deebo is they called up 2 wide receivers from the practice squad, which makes me concerned a little bit that Deebo maybe won't play. Somebody was saying in here earlier, I think Saul was saying that Adam Schefter is reporting that Deebo Samuel is expected to play. So that's we can continue to work under the assumption that Debo is in, but we'll have to confirm that in 20 minutes when inactives come out. All right. Wide receivers. Maybe this would be easier to do team by team, just because we can kind of look at the right participation. So yeah, I think I'm just going to do that. Starting with, we'll start with the Bills receivers with Curtis Samuel out. All right, I'm going to go to advanced receiving and route share report. So you start with Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman are the clear top two receivers on the Bills. And they have their stats are not all that different. Actually, I do want to look at advanced receiving just for let's look for the past couple games, because the reason I want to see if there's been a split difference here. Khalil Shakir entered the season with I want to say it was a high ankle sprain. I don't remember what his injury was, but the injury experts were kind of saying that they thought he was going to take some time to ramp up. He played right away in week 1, but he was coming in with an injury that maybe was going to take him some time to get fully healthy. And then we saw Keon Coleman had the big game to start the year. So I'm curious if we've actually seen a change into the guard. Not really. It looks like over the past 2 weeks, we're still looking at pretty even split. Shakir has, taken on the better workload with 70% route participation, 14 targets over the past 2 weeks, to Keon Coleman's 11 targets, 67.2% route participation. So it is a better workload for Shakir over the past couple weeks. I'm not sure that it is, really indicative of a changing of the guard versus just variance in football over the past 2 weeks. So I don't know that I can say for sure that he's taken over as the favorite of Josh Allen. You also look at the ADOT for Khalil Shakir, 1.6 to Keon Coleman's 15.5. They just trust they can get the ball to Shakir. They get it to him, behind the line of scrimmage, right at the line of scrimmage, and just trust him and his yak ability. And he's really good at, avoiding getting tackled, getting down the field. And so they're trusting him. They're using him that way, which, kind of builds up the floor when you're getting those low ADOT passes. You're just more likely to catch it, and then you have the opportunity still to make big plays if you can, take advantage of that yak ability. So Shakir generally, I think, is going to be the better fantasy asset, but Coleman, if he just hits on a big play or two, can certainly get there as well. Going to come down to ownership ultimately. So again, the past couple weeks has been Shakir has looked a little bit better on the season. Shakir 27 targets, 72.5% route participation. Coleman 29 targets, 70.9% route participation. I think that both of them look better with Dalton Kincaid out. Also, you would expect the target share to go up with Dalton Kincaid out. He is the third on the team in terms of target share. It's kind of a big gap between the top 3 and then Josh Palmer. So I think they benefit from Dalton Kincaid being out. As far as preferences, it really will come down to ownership projections. I don't think these are correct. 48 and 12. I would be pretty shocked if there is a 36% difference in ownership between Shakir and Coleman. I would it's not impossible. I'm not expecting it to be that big of a difference. I want to see what RG has it at. So they have 42% going to Shakir, 27.5 to Coleman. That seems about more like what I would expect. And I don't think these are off from where they should be necessarily. I think both look pretty good at these ownership numbers. Maybe they come in higher with Kincaid out. I don't know that I really expect the field to adjust all that much to the receivers with Kincaid out, because it's still not the best situation. They don't have a huge pass volume. It's in terms of pass rate over expectation, the Bills are one of the lowest in the league. Actually, I can look that up. 21st in PROE for the Bills. So they just don't pass all that much. It's a tough matchup with the Falcons. AJ Terrell back for the Falcons. Also, somebody noted that. Yeah, it's a tough matchup. Yeah, so I think both look about fine at these ownership numbers. I don't have any great takes on getting different from where the Bills are at. Josh Palmer, maybe benefits from Curtis Samuel being out. If we look at his route participation, let's snap share. Down the past couple weeks with Curtis Samuel back, he was, and I guess he was already down to 44% in week 3 with Curtis Samuel still out. But I think with Kincaid out and Curtis Samuel out, I would expect Josh Palmer to play more, run more routes, maybe see more opportunities. So I do think that he also benefits from the absence of both Curtis Samuel and Dalton Kincaid. Just there should be more opportunities in the passing game overall. I think Josh Palmer, one of the receivers that could benefit there. So I think Palmer looks pretty good here at, what is he, 3,600? Maybe the ownership bumps up a little bit as the projection changes. I don't know that I'm expecting it to change all that much, but Palmer's going to look pretty good. Ownership dependent. I will want to double check the ownership there. Let me look at another source real quick. I just want to see if I'm like make sure that I'm not like super far off on, like, these ownership numbers aren't like, oh, he's actually being projected for 30% now elsewhere. So let me look at that real quick. Nope, looks like we're still getting like virtually no ownership on any Bills receivers outside of Shakir and Coleman. And I think their projections like will look a little bit better on Palmer and Elijah Moore. So yeah, I think Palmer looks pretty good at single digit ownership. There are a number of cheap receivers that are kind of shuffling around in how you want to look at them now with the injury updates. Maybe now we prioritize Palmer a little bit more than I had been earlier. And I do think Elijah Moore becomes playable with Curtis Samuel out, should get a bit more playing time, kind of enters the mix of, I mean, he was already, no, I guess he would not have been in the mix with all of the receivers there. I guess he sort of replaces Curtis Samuel in the mix as far as like, yeah, he's another cheap receiver you can throw in there. I think I'll wait to rank the cheap contrarian receivers later, but I think both Josh Palmer and Elijah Moore become more interesting without Dalton Kincaid, and Curtis Samuel, I think, become not like, I wouldn't call either of them priorities in the sense that I would like want to like be sure that you have them in your first lineup. But I do think in like a 20 lineup set, I probably have at least one Josh Palmer, at least one Elijah Moore. Okay, and then I'll move on to other teams that also have interesting receivers. So on the Falcons, we have Darnell Mooney is out. As a result, Drake London looks even better than he should see just a great workload here. He's 6,200, projected for 63% ownership. Looking at my lineups, let's see. I got to 49% in my first run. I wouldn't mind being higher than that on Drake London. They should be throwing quite a bit. Obviously, the issue is Michael Penix throwing him the ball has been pretty inconsistent. The matchup with Buffalo has been, let's see. Overall, it's been a middling matchup, as you see here. It's actually not a bad matchup for Drake London himself, according to, if you look at schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. There's a lot of different ways to look at this kind of stuff, but in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed per game, it is the second best matchup for receivers who line up out wide right, which is where, according to the wide receiver cornerback matchup report, that is where we're going to get Drake London lining up. So all things considered, looks like maybe a fine matchup for Drake London. That's another report I want to bring up here, is the receiving coverage matchup. I guess I'll look at the Bills here also, but just in terms of like the schematic, the way the defense plays. So would have been a positive match for Dalton Kincaid, but he's out. This looks like a benefit Shakir more than Coleman. So for whatever that's worth, pretty even matchup in terms of coverage grade for Josh Palmer. We don't even have Elijah Moore in here. And then on the Falcon side, we only have London and Pitts in here, but it is a slightly above average matchup for Drake London, slightly below average matchup for Kyle Pitts. Nothing really there. So London, a priority, somebody I want to have in probably more than 50% of my lineups. And then you got so my favorite coming into today, like my first look at the slate was Casey Washington just looks pretty awesome to me. I still think that he is a pretty big priority for me. Washington is just 3,000 projected for 8% ownership. I didn't actually get to a ton of him in that first run of The Sims. So I don't know how much I want to force my way onto a ton there, but I think I'd like to get to like 10% Casey Washington because he's had a pretty strong workload in games that Darnell Mooney has missed. So if you look at this is the route participation report. Mooney missed week 1. Casey Washington ran 93.6% of routes. Then he was concussed. So he missed weeks 2 and 3, came back in week 4, and Mooney played but then got hurt. So Washington, after Mooney got hurt, ended up playing 60.7 or running 60.7% of routes. I also saw 6 targets in week 1 and 3 in a part-time role in week 4. So like he's not only running routes, but they're targeting him 9 times in those 2 games. And it's not even like 2 full games for Washington with Mooney out. So with all of that considered, Casey Washington, like in a vacuum, looks like a pretty strong, low-owned, cheap play to me, who should have a pretty solid workload here. And now we have Ray McLeod out, which takes away some concern that you might have had for Washington's workload. I don't know if we're going to get like Kadarius Hodge or somebody else here that we have to consider on the Falcons. Let's see. Let me look at. Yeah, I don't think anybody else is going to jump up outside of Drake London and Casey Washington. I think those are going to be the 2 priorities still. I'm trying to see who else might just run more routes. So Ray McLeod out. I guess, I mean, as Adam and I talked about, you see Ray McLeod and Charlie Warner. Could be Warner who benefits from Ray McLeod being out. Just run more 2 tight end sets. I guess Kadarius Hodge is active, as is David Sills. Neither of them running that many routes. Maybe one of them benefits. I don't think that it's enough that I want to play them on the 2-game slate. Maybe on more of a showdown thing to look at with those 2. So yeah, I think Drake London, Casey Washington look great, and then after those 2. We'll have to see what we get. I am going. Oh, looks like I actually got to some. No, I didn't get David Sills. Never mind. All right, I'm going to refresh again and see if this is ready to go yet. Maybe we need to reset. All right, now Kincaid showing 0% ownership. So I'm kind of assuming that this projection is not a real projection. Oh yeah, he's at 0% target share and stuff. So it's just this number. Okay, this is ready to go. All right, I'm going to rerun the Sims now, and then we're going to get inactive in 7 minutes. So I'm just going to have to rerun them again. But I am going to run them with the information we have now. Going to set up my contest here. All right, running the Sims again. And while those are going, so we've done Bills, we've done Falcons. Let's move on, take a look at the Commanders. And this is, again, we're going to get inactive soon, but as of right now, still assuming that Deebo Samuel is going to play. Is this running? Yeah. Okay, good. So I think Deebo Samuel likely to play, and we're going to have some strong options on the Commanders. So again, if we look at the route share report for the Commanders, and like I said, I didn't even get into like Drake London's numbers on the season, but we can just look at the overall numbers for the Falcons. Drake London, 37 targets in 4 games, just under 10 targets per game, 85.4% route participation. Just has an elite workload, and it should be even better with Darnell Mooney out. You would expect them to target Drake London even more. So I think he looks like a really strong play. Casey Washington, again, has just played the 2 games. One of them, Darnell Mooney was in for part of it, still has 9 targets in 2 games, 81.3% route participation, really strong workload. Actually, I think ran more routes than Drake London in that first game. So he looks great to me. And then we'll see who else we can play. Let's see, Ray McLeod. Yeah, 50-50 split for Ray McLeod. So I don't know who would be next man up there. Not that they had a really great workload. Anyway, it might just be Charlie Warner. I'll see what the Sims give me. But then the Commanders, Deebo Samuel going to look really strong. Again, 38 targets through 5 games. So just under 8 targets per game for Deebo Samuel on 79.3% route participation. Going to get, handful of carries per game, 1 to 2 carries per game. Generally, in terms of the matchup, schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed against the Bears for receivers, surprisingly doesn't look as great for receivers. Like, it's a strong matchup for quarterbacks, but doesn't actually show up that great as a matchup for receivers. Shows up as a better matchup for running backs. Sort of interesting there, but it, bottom 10 matchup for receivers against the Bears. I'm not totally buying that. I think we've seen a lot of receivers have big games against the Bears. So I think Deebo Samuel, it's a good enough spot here. He's going to get a lot of ownership. I don't think he's one that we need to get too into. I think as far as, so I guess we have to, a decision point you might have is Drake London versus Deebo Samuel versus Rome Odunze. I think I would rank them Odunze 1, London 2, Deebo Samuel 3, I think is how I have those 3 ranked. But they're you could probably get all 3 of them into a lineup. So I'll probably have lineups with all 3 of them in. I'll have over 50%, I would imagine, of each of them, or at least 40+% of each of them. All look good to me. But yeah, Deebo looks like a strong play, but it's more interesting when you get beyond Deebo, because we've had Terry McLaurin out for weeks 4 and 5. In those games, Luke McCaffrey, 5 targets on 37.1% route participation. Jalen Lane, 5 targets on 37.1% route participation. The exact same targets and route participation for those two. Interestingly, Luke McCaffrey, 27.4 ADOT. He's getting thrown the ball far down the field. Jalen Lane, not quite as far, still pretty far down the field. And then beyond those two, Chris Moore has looked, he's been running 69.4% of the routes, 3 targets in those 2 games. So how do you prioritize them with Chris Moore running more routes but getting less targets in the past 2 games without Terry McLaurin? I want to see what the Sims are going to give me. It's tough to rank. I think they're all playable on the 2-game slate. I think that this is a spot where all of them should have opportunities, can break off big plays. I think I would rank them, of the backups, Chris Moore number 1, Jalen Lane number 2, Luke McCaffrey number 3. I think just Jalen Lane, kind of hoping for that post-bye rookie bump. Sorry, this isn't a bye. They didn't have a bye week. Never mind. Disregard that. But he is a rookie who's been ascending a little bit. 40.6% route participation in week 5 was his second most of the season. So I think it's more likely that he's ascending than Luke McCaffrey. I do think they like McCaffrey, still learning how to play wide receiver. So it's not a huge difference between those two. But I think Chris Moore is has the best role of the group. Did see his route participation drop from 76.7% to 62.5%. So maybe he's not earning targets. Maybe they're saying, hey, let's give the other guys a shot, and seeing Jalen Lane bump up a little bit. So it's possible that we continue to see Jalen Lane bump up more. I want to see what the ownership looks like also. RG has it. Let's see. McCaffrey at 9%, Lane at 11%, Moore at 15%. So they do have it in that same order. McCaffrey also the most expensive at $3,800. It's pretty close. I think I kind of want to have pretty even exposure to a lot of the kind of lower end receivers. But I think Chris Moore is the safest at 3,000. He has the best projection of the 3 of them, and he's the cheapest. Again, runs the most routes. So I think I'm going to stick with that order on the Commanders guys, but they're all players I would want in a 150 set. I think you could like if you have a 20 lineup set that doesn't have any Luke McCaffrey or doesn't have any Jalen Lane, I don't think it's like a huge priority to make sure like you need to get those guys in. But I also think if you get to one of them, even in your first lineup, I think that it's viable. Like I think they're all viable. Okay, Debo active. We did just get inactives. Good to see that. All right, let me look at the inactives list. See if there's anything else of note there. Colston Loveland active, Chris Rodriguez active, Debo Samuel active. All right, who is inactive? And still, are we concerned about the call ups from the practice squad? Noah Brown is out, but we already knew that. Um, yeah, no surprise inactives from the Commanders. The Bears kicker Cairo Santos is inactive. I don't know if that was expected. I have not looked into kickers yet today. I haven't done a showdown slate, but for the showdown slate, that might matter. But that's good. We got inactives in line with the Sims as they are. So I don't need to. The Bears are running out Jake Moody. Is that right? So I don't need to adjust anything. So I'm happy for that. All right. So getting back to my player exposures. Okay, now I'm up to look at this 93% Khalil Shakir. So we got a big bump on the Bills. I am not going to play 93% Khalil Shakir, 66% Keon Coleman. This would be a bit much for me. I'm going to have to rerun this. But it is nice to see that like okay we got some news on the Bills and suddenly if you don't move up their ownership suddenly they project way better and now you're slamming the Bills here. So that is the current look of the Sims. I don't know if this is an overreaction to the news that Dalton Kincaid and Curtis Samuel are out, but yeah, I mean it does make sense that now we're going to like the Bills better. So maybe I need to adjust a little bit to try to get to more of the Bills. Again, I think this would be pretty risky to play 93% Khalil Shakir, 66% Keon Coleman, 25% Josh Palmer. I don't feel as convicted as these Sims are that those are the best plays, but it's interesting to see that's how the Sims react to it. I also think ownership numbers might come up, so maybe have to make some adjustments to the ownership projection. And then Chicago, the final team that I have not done. Yeah, I mean Chicago looks great, so it's a great matchup here for the Bears in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. I guess again, this is one where it looks great for the quarterback, doesn't look as great for receivers, but I think the Commanders also. I think they would look better in terms of schedule adjusted if they had not played the Chargers, where the Chargers like had been great as an offense, and then they've just kind of fallen flat a little bit as their entire offensive line got hurt. So I think that might actually like it's tough to factor that into schedule adjusted that like the actual team that they played has changed quite a bit. So which is always going to be the case, but I think that this is a pretty strong matchup for Bears receivers. Rome Odunze, I think the pretty clear number one receiver here. A team that plays a lot of man coverage defense should benefit Rome Odunze. He's already been targeted 33 times in 4 games, so over 8 targets per game on 85.6% route participation. I think Rome looks great. DJ Moore kind of comes down to his projected ownership. 25% projected ownership seems about right for DJ Moore, about where I would like to be. Let's see. Currently getting to 11%. I guess he's right in the same price range as Coleman and Shakir and actually more expensive than them. So currently only getting to 11%. I think I'd like a little bit more than that of DJ Moore. And then beyond those, you've got, and we can look at the route share report for the Bears. Olamide Zaccheaus has been the slot receiver for the Bears, holding pretty steady at a little bit under 60% route participation. Actually, has just as many targets on the season as DJ Moore. Each of them has 20 targets, even though Olamide Zaccheaus running a lot fewer routes. DJ Moore does have 6 carries on the season for an average of 2.5 yards per rush, but getting some opportunities, he could break one or score a touchdown. So there is that going for DJ Moore, but Zacchaeus is at a pretty strong roll. He is pretty inexpensive. 3,500, not projected for a ton of ownership. He's one of my favorites of the cheap guys. And then finally, Luther Burden does have a post buy game. This is we could see a potential post buy rookie bump for Luther Burden. This is a receiver that they spent high draft capital on already in week 4. 27% route participation was his highest of the season. We get a bye week. I wouldn't be surprised to see Luther Burden eating into the workload of DJ Moore and or Olamide Zacchaeus. I don't know how much or if he's even going to eat into their workload, but I think it's possible. I also think Luther Burden is intriguing from the standpoint of he's capable of just on a limited workload making a splash play and paying off his salary. So Burden is somebody that I do have interest in, despite the limited workload and the high price tag, because he is going to be unowned basically. Nobody's going to get to a project for 2% ownership at 4,500. I don't expect him to get steamed more than like 5%. Maybe he gets to like 5% ownership. I think I want more than that of Luther Burden. I think that he is a fun kind of dart throw. Again, he's close enough in price to those Bills receivers who look a lot better now. So you do have to sacrifice some to get to these more tertiary options. But I think he is one that I want to make sure I have at least like 5% in my portfolio. And Zacchaeus, again, is among the best of the cheap receivers, just kind of has a clear role there for the Bears. All right, so that is all of the receivers. Now let me look at how I would rank the cheaper guys. So we have the kind of the more expensive tier. Let's see, I'm going to go by salary. Again, I think for me it is of the top 3, it would be Rome, followed by London, followed by Deebo Samuel. I think it's reasonable if you have a different order. There's no like clear best of that group. And then you've got another tier that's like DJ Moore, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. I would rank them. I would rank DJ Moore last, probably rank Shakir ahead of Coleman. But I think that's also how the ownership is going to look. Then you've got a whole cheap tier of, I think in a 150 set, I would like all of Luther Burden, Luke McCaffrey, Joshua Palmer, Olamide Zacchaeus, Jalen Lane, Elijah Moore. I don't think I need to get to either. Yeah, these are not even projecting. Casey Washington, Chris Moore. I think those are the only ones that I need to get to in even a 150 set. I think I would prioritize them with the latest news. I would prioritize them. Man, I think I actually moved Josh Palmer to number 1 with the latest news, followed by Casey Washington, then Olamide Zacchaeus. Maybe then Elijah Moore because of the matchup, the quarterback throwing to him. Not going to get much ownership after having not been in play all day. Then Jalen Lane. Maybe Burden actually, maybe before Jalen Lane. But yeah, probably Burden, then Jalen Lane, then Luke McCaffrey. I think that's I said Chris Moore. Shoot, I didn't include Chris Moore in there. I think Chris Moore probably goes ahead of Luther Burden, Jalen Lane, those guys. I think he would be ahead in that group. So again, I think the biggest priorities for me: Josh Palmer, Casey Washington, Olamide Zacchaeus, and then it's a big group. But I would want to have kind of like 5 to 15% exposure. I think to everybody in that group would be kind of my goal. All right, and then we'll move on to tight ends. So after this last run, I'm getting to 44% Dawson Knox, 11% Zach Ertz, 29% Kyle Pitts, 22% Cole Kmet, 0% Colston Loveland, 1% Colston Loveland, 1% Charlie Warner. In terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed, it is a bottom matchup for both of Kyle Pitts and Dawson Knox. Like these are the 2 worst matchups kind of by far in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. And then you've got okay matchup for Zach Ertz. Chicago tight ends have a little bit of a better matchup. I'm realizing I only have 20 minutes and I have to make 2 sets of lineups here. So let me get to that real quick. But I think I probably prioritize them with new ownership. I mean, Dawson Knox is going to look great at 11% ownership. Yeah, Dawson Knox probably the biggest priority unless the ownership moves up quite a bit. I do like Kyle Pitts quite a bit at 3,700 also. So I think I wouldn't mind having more Dawson Knox here. Zach Ertz looks better, gets targeted more with Jaden Daniels out there. I do still like Cole Kmet. I think he's going to get a bit overlooked. I guess I'm getting into. I'm pretty happy, I guess, with my tight end exposures. Wouldn't mind bringing down the Dawson Knox a little bit and getting to a little bit more of Zach Ertz. And Colston Loveland, another like potential post-buy rookie bump would be the case for Colston Loveland. Again, similar to Burden, like he just like this good offense could see more work, but I don't know if we can really expect that. And then Charlie Warner maybe does benefit from the absence of Ray McLeod. We kind of saw again looking at their snap share that they seem to be negatively correlated in terms of their snap share. So we may get more Charlie Warner, but not a huge priority. Oh, and Jackson Hawes also maybe runs enough to be relevant at this point. So I'm going to make some slate adjustments to the inputs, run this one more time, get some lineups in. So I'm getting to a ton of the Bills passing game. They might just run actually, how much was I getting to of James Cook now? Player exposures. I'm gonna give them a higher rushing rate because I'm getting to a ton of all the pass catchers. I think they might just run the ball more than expected right now. So I'm gonna move up the Bills rush rate. Otherwise, generally mostly okay. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna move up the Bills rush rate quite a bit from 40.5% to 44%. I think that'll be enough to get more James Cook. Maybe even 45%. And that should bring down my Shakir, Coleman, and Palmer a little bit, I think. And Knox, who I wouldn't mind getting to a little bit less of all of them. Casey Washington, I might want to increase his workload a little bit. I'm going to take it. I don't think I need to get to any Kadero Hodge, so I'm just going to go to 15%. I should have clicked Smart Adjust. Okay, we'll see. We'll see if that does what I need it to. Maybe I'll get to a bit more Kyle Pitts. Wouldn't mind getting to just a bit of Warner. Okay. Chicago side could get to a little bit of Monungai. Would not be upset by that. So maybe I'm going to increase his rush rate just slightly. I was getting into a lot of Swift. I'm going to move up I think I want more Caleb, so I'm going to bring up the point scored and the pace just slightly. Okay. Wasn't getting any burden. So I am going to remove Durham Smythe. Burden up slightly. Take away some of DeAndre Swift receiving market share. Hopefully I'm not getting too far away from DeAndre Swift by making some of these changes. All right. But I'm just going to have to get these lineups in. On the Commander side, we do have Bill getting most of the work. McCaffrey, Lane, and Moore all getting about the same market shares. I think I want a little bit more Ertz. Okay. And then let me look at the ownership on the Buffalo side because I think that might go up. All right, they've moved it up a bit. All right, I'm going to try that. All right, and then while that is running, I'm gonna run. I'm probably just gonna have to accept the Showdown Sims, but we'll see what I'll see what it gives me. So I'm playing in terms of the Showdown 175. Okay. Buffalo, Atlanta. Yeah, that's the first game. Good. Click settings. Number of lineups 15,000. Large field, top heavy. Diversifier. This is not. There we go. I'll look real quick at the inputs. So Allen projected for a ton of captain ownership. That makes sense. A lot of Allen in general. James Cook, 10,215% looks fine. Ty Johnson, I think I like better here than the main slate at 1,400. I mean, Ray Davis more playable, but I'm actually going to move up Ty Johnson's receiving market share slightly. Because at 12% ownership, he does look appealing to me. Keon Coleman, I'd expect to be a little bit chalkier now, so I'm going to bring that ownership up. Elijah Moore will have some ownership, so I'm going to give him 2% at least at 1,200. He's going to look really good, I would imagine. Hawes at 600 looks good. I mean, Kincaid is going to be a smash here. I would assume he's going to get more ownership than that. So I'm going to bring him up to 20% ownership and 2% at captain. Falcon side, I'm going to Casey Washington 1,000 looks pretty good. I'm going to move him to a. I mean, looks really good at. I mean, he's getting 32% ownership though. Drake London going to get a ton. Here is where I think David Sills and Kadero Hodge both pretty playable. Charlie Warner looks a lot better. I think that's a good spot to take some shots. Charlie Warner on Showdown actually looks really good to me because he might benefit the most from Rary McLeod being out. So I think that's probably the one that I'm like, all right, that actually looks really good. I think I want to make sure I'm getting to some Charlie Warner. There we go. So I'm going to run these also. Now I'll check in on chat. Apologies, have to make sure I get this right. Yes, Kincaid is out. Kincaid is out. Did I say something about him? I think I meant maybe I said Kincaid when I meant Dawson Knox looks really good. Oh, Emwald, good note that the rush rate needed to be adjusted. Hopefully my change to just the rush rate is going to be enough. All right, so I'm just gonna download these first, make sure I have lineups in. So let's see, lineups. Then we'll see if I can run one more set after making more adjustments. Downloading that CSV. All right, let's get this in. Okay. If I had time, I was going to maybe try to hand build an entry into the main there. I'm not going to have time here though. It's these 2 game slates. Trying to do 3 different slates on one show just becomes difficult to handle. So I'm just going to have to use what Run the Sims gives me and hope that they are giving me a winner. All right, so In the end, after making some adjustments, I am at 99% Bajan. I'm still at 95% Kaloshikir. I am going to have to make more adjustments. All right, I'm going to try to adjust this really quickly because I don't want 95% Kaloshikir, 75% Keon Coleman. Oh, and I'm still not getting to any James Cook. All right, so there's something going on there. I thought that I'd adjusted up the rush rate enough. Oh, rush touchdown rate. Crap. Okay. So what is normal there? 40, like right in line with. Yep, that is an issue. Okay. So I'm going to move the rush touchdown rate up to 45% also. Maybe even higher. Okay. Just going to rerun that immediately. And then while that's running, see what my showdown looks like. I wonder if this has the same issue. All right, let me look at the inputs. Okay, so I gave them way too high of a. Oh no, this still has a 0% rush touchdown rate. So I'm going to move the rush rate up to. Well, I guess for now I'm just going to download. These are going to be super wonky lineups, but could work. You never know. So I'm just going to download them, make sure I have something in there. Okay, let's see. Need to download that again, don't I? Okay. All right. All right, now I'm going to rerun. Oh, did I close? No, here it is. Rerun this with different inputs. 40. Okay. Try that. It's moving quick today, so that's good. The Sims are working. Appreciate you, Dan. See you later. Good luck tonight. All right. So for the main slate, let's see. Getting close. 5 minutes till lock. Make sure you get your lineups in. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, guys. I will go after the second showdown slate after I get these in. Just trying to get these, frantically get my lineups as good as possible right now for these. Just going to do quickly on the second game, build some lineups. And then we'll enjoy some football. All right. New lineups in. I am going to download this CSV. Let's take a look at the player exposures real quick. Make sure, yeah, this looks more in line with what I want here. Still 75% Shakir, still, I guess 36% Coleman. So getting to a ton of Shakir, but I'm just gonna, this looks more in line with what I would like. So I'm gonna download this. Now we're playing Caleb Williams is the top lineup there. So now we'll take a look at my player exposures because I don't think I'm going to be able to adjust again. All right, so I'm playing a ton of Caleb Williams. That was not my intention to play 54%. A little bit of Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels, 4% Michael Penix. I do like Caleb Williams quite a bit tonight. So if that's the stand that gets me there, I guess I can't complain. 99% Bijan Robinson, maybe a bit much, but if I'm going to play 90% of anybody, I'll take Bijan, 59% James Cook, 62% Ja'Cory croskey-merritt, 26% Swift, 12% Tyler Rozier. Didn't get to any Monungai, Chris Rodriguez, Jeremy McNichols. Would have liked to, but it is what it is. Wide receivers, 75% Khalil Shakir, 61% Romo Dunze, 46% Drake London. Would have liked more there. 44% Deebo Samuel, 36% Coleman, 22% Moore, 18% Zacchaeus, 9% Casey Washington, 9% Josh Palmer, 6% Luke McCaffrey, 9% Luther Burden. Only 1% Chris Moore is kind of scary. None of Jalen Lane. Don't love that. None of Elijah Moore. There are some changes that I would have liked to have made here if I had realized there was a mistake earlier. But I think those are generally like these lineups have a shot. All right, Showdown. Let's see what I get. A lot of Josh Allen, ton of Bijan Robinson, little bit of Michael, 38% Penix, a little bit of Cook, London, Shakir. Any big stands here? Where's my Charlie Warner? 17% Charlie Warner. Okay, I'm double the field at least. All right, I'm going to download these. Put those in before lock. All right. Yes, this is where we want it. I don't think I played any in the flagship, which I usually like to do. Just forgot to enter it. So hopefully other people can let me know how that's going. All right. I guess that is probably the only, I'm not going to be able to make any more adjustments. So I guess I'll call it good with the main slate and the first showdown. Now I'll just build lineups for Chicago, Washington. Showdown. And then get out of here. Okay. So going back to run the Sims. NFL Sim Runner. If you want to see what I'm doing with the showdown. All right, Chicago, Washington. We're going to go, I guess I'm going to start by running it. So I'm going to set up the settings. There we go. Let's run it. Yeah, good luck, everybody. Later, Sean, Alan, Mike, good luck. Good luck to you all. Charles, you're bringing the bots? Appreciate it, Bill. Do my best. Spend a lot of time on this. What up, Conscious? All right. I need Bill for some of my eliminators. I've got 2 eliminators that are currently behind, but like within striking distance. So I need a big game from Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt for some of my eliminator lineups. So now we pray. Yeah, I'm doing the final showdown slate now before I get out of here. Just gonna spend 15 minutes probably on it. Run the sims, make some adjustments, look at the prices, then I'll get out of here. Got to get some food in my belly. How much ownership would you give to Chris Rodriguez since he's at 0 right now for the main slate or for Showdown? I'm guessing he'll get like 1% on the main slate. Yes, Marco would love to see you win and win a flannel hat. Yeah. Well, let me look. Is he min priced? I haven't looked at the. Let me look at it after we get this done. But I would guess he gets to. I mean, I guess it really depends on the price tag. So let me look at the price tag before I make any kind of guess. Because I mean, if he's like 4,000, he probably won't get more than like 1 to 2% ownership. If he's like 800, I would guess we're gonna get some. He's 2,400 on Chris Rodriguez. I would guess he only gets to like, I don't know, 5% ownership. Let me see what Rotogranus has him at. They have him at 4%, 2,400. I think my Sims might have just run into an issue or something, but we'll see. So yeah, I think I would project him for 4% ownership. Seems about right. And I think I'd want to be over that number. Somebody in a Discord I'm in just tweeted, just said Bijan dead. So please tell me that's not true. It is not to be taken literally, but hopefully that doesn't mean that he is hurt or anything. It just means he had one bad play. Oh, he fumbled it, but then there was a penalty. Okay. That's lucky. My 99% owned player in my lineups, starting with negative points, would just not feel good. Drake London starting out, having himself a game. Wish I had more Drake London. Okay, yeah, for first play from scrimmage for a guy I have 99% of does not feel great. All right, we're close. We're close to finishing this first sim of the later game. What do you mean by Odunze ladder? What is the like? You want to ladder his yardage? Go ahead. Yeah, let's do it. I can't do that here. I can't sports bet. But I could see him having a big game, having 150 yards. So yeah, ladder it up. Up to 120. Yeah, I like that. Okay. First set of sims are done, and I'm getting to a ton of Chris Rodriguez. Let's see. So a quarterback, over 90% Jaden Daniels for me, 86% Caleb Williams. Running backs, I'm getting to 42 and 13% Ja'Cory croskey-merritt, so he's a pretty big priority. DeAndre Swift a little bit less, 36 and 7. Kyle Monungai 11% here. Chris Rodriguez 37 and 1%. So I'm getting to even, and they haven't projected for 12% ownership. I'm still getting to a ton of Chris Rodriguez, and then not much Jeremy McNichols. I think I'd want a little bit more Jeremy McNichols at 4% ownership. Currently getting to 8% in the flex, none in the captain spot. Wide receivers getting to over 50% Debo overall, with 16% of it at captain. Rome Odunze 20 and 6%. DJ Moore 11 and 2%. Olamide Zaccheaus 13 and 1%. Chris Moore just 3%. Because they have projected for 41% ownership. Luke McCaffrey, I'm getting to 10 and 1. Luther Burden, 25 and 2. Jalen Lane, just 1%. Tay Martin, 1%. Ja'Cory Brooks, none. Tight ends, I'm getting to 12% Ertz and 1% at captain. 18% Komet, 2% at captain, 4% Loveland, none of Bates, Sinnott, or Durham Smythe. Kickers, 42 and 1% of Matt Gay, 10% of Jake Moody. Defense is 16 and 4 of the Commanders, 7 and 1 of the Bears. Okay. So let me make some adjustments here. I'll run it one more time before we get out of here. So a lot of the quarterbacks, a lot of the starting running backs, ton of Chris Rodriguez, not much Jeremy McNichols. So I could maybe move some more work to McNichols potentially. A lot of Debo. Would like more Rome, I think, especially at captain. Fine with not getting to a ton of DJ Moore. I think that's enough. Might want a little bit more. Zaccheaus at 3,400 looks really good. Chris Moore, I think I'm going to move down that ownership. I guess 4,100. At 200, 41% ownership. Probably not that far off, but I don't know. I think I might want a little bit more than that, than just 3%. That's like a big risk. I want to take a small risk on fading it. 25 and 2 going to Burden. Not much Lane. I think I want more Lane. So I think I want to get more Lane, more Chris Moore than I'm getting to currently. Maybe more Loveland. Pretty happy to be. I think I like getting more Komet. All right, let me look at the inputs. I also kind of like the Commanders' defense here, just from a, it's a home game. Caleb Williams kind of inconsistent still. So I wasn't getting into much Zaccheaus. I was getting into like more Burden than I thought I would, which I like. He's projecting for 1% ownership. That's why. I do think I want more Rome than I'm currently getting. Just going to remove Smythe. Bring Rome up to 27% target share. There's nobody that I really want to remove who I'm getting right now. I like Zaccheaus maybe a bit more. So maybe I can take away like a slight amount of my Caleb rushing market share, bring him down from 22% to 18%, and then give that to Monungai and Swift, and then take away some of their target share and move it elsewhere. So move Swift down to like a 9% target share. And then spread that to Burden, Zacchaeus. All right, got to do something here. Okay, good enough. On the Commander side, I was getting to a ton of Chris Rodriguez. So here, like cosmetically, it says 0%, but then on the other side, it did project him for 12%. I'm just going to put him in for 5% projected ownership, or maybe 4% I'll do. Yeah, I think that'll move. Maybe it was actually projecting for 0%. Chris Moore, I'm just going to move down to 36% projected ownership and see if that's enough. That I'll maybe get a little bit more. Jalen Lane, I'm going to move down to 6% ownership. Could get a bit more then. And McCaffrey, I'll leave it as is for now. And then is there anybody I want to give more work to? I don't think so. Maybe Zach Ertz. All right, let's try that. Oh, and then I think I do want to give Commanders. I'm going to move the Commanders up to a 9% sack rate. And then run it. Oh, your Discord? Josh Palmer? All right, what do I have there? Do I have them? Josh Palmer, I think only 9% Palmer is what I ended with. Wish I would have kept more of that. And then Algier, we got 12%. What did he end up actually owned? I guess that's also a Josh Allen score. Or no, Josh Allen didn't score. He threw a long one. Wish I had even more Algier, but all depends on how much the field has, I guess, how happy I can be about that. 5% in the minimax? Okay. Palmer, 9%? Okay, so I'm doing okay. I was getting 25% before I adjusted things, so wish I had more, but we'll take it. Let's see, minimax. Yeah, damn, some high scores already early in this game. I don't think Palmer TD, Tyreek. I think it was just like a 45-yard play. Tyler Algier touchdown. Yeah, Palmer already at 5.5 points. 7% I'm seeing ownership. Where's Bijan? 83%. So I do still have more of Bijan than the field. So I need him to pick it up a bit. Looks like the Bills are stalling out in the red zone, but it's 3rd and 13. So you never know. Josh Allen magic. What's coming? I guess I have so much Caleb Williams that I don't want Josh Allen to score. Like, let's kick a field goal here. You guys have to let me know what's happening in the game. Oh, and I guess I got to look at what do I have in that showdown slate. I'm currently not winning anything, so it can't be that great in terms of my exposure to those two. But let's see. Palmer, only 17%. And then Algier, 17%. So I'm, with or under the field, at least what's projected there. So that's a bummer. Knox touchdown. No, yeah, I cannot do sports betting in my state. Like, it's not a DraftKings thing, it's a state law. Is that right? Dawson Knox touchdown? All right, I've got 28%. What did he end up at? 29% in Showdown. All right, I'm going to download these. Take a look at my top lineups. And throw them in. Then as far as top lineup here, Jaden Daniels with Deebo Samuel, Luke McCaffrey, Matt Gay, Commanders defense, and DeAndre Swift. Second lineup, Caleb Williams, captain with Luther Burden, Olamide Zaccheaus, Romo Dunze, Matt Gay, and Jaden Daniels naked. Third lineup, back to Jaden Daniels, a captain with Deebo, Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, Commanders defense, Zach Ertz. Jake Moody is the only bring back from the Bears. Exposures. Now, man, I'm up to 47% Jaden Daniels captain, 90% total, a little over 90% Jaden Daniels, 53 and 13 of Caleb. Running backs, I'm at 37. Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt at 7% at captain, 34% Swift, 3% at captain, 14% Monungai, 11% Chris Rodriguez, 3.4% McNichols. So yeah, I did have to give him some ownership to bring down the McNichols a little bit. Wide receivers, 45 and 11% Deebo Samuel, 24 and 7% Romo Dunze, 27 and 1% Olamide Zaccheaus, 9% DJ Moore, 5% Chris Moore, even after bringing down his ownership a bit, 18% McCaffrey, 25% Burden, 5% Lane, 1% Tay Martin, none of Ja'Cory Brooks. Tight ends, 34% Ertz, 13% and 1% Cole Kmet, none of Colston Loveland now, which I don't love. I might force in some more there. I'll think about it. Kickers, 47 and 1% Gay, 9% Moody. Defenses, 31% Commanders, 9% Bears. I think at this point, I'm going to just use the filters rather than rerunning things. So I'm going to, let's see. Jaden Daniels captain, as much as I like him, I don't think I want 47%. So I am going to filter that down to maybe like 30%. And then also max flex, maybe I'll go like 50%. So I'll get 80% total. Jaden Daniels seems okay. Who else? I think I'll get to more Caleb by doing that. Wouldn't mind getting more Romo Dunze. I don't know that I can force that. I'm going to leave these as is for now. I wouldn't mind getting more Jeremy McNichols, but I don't think I'm going to force it. Matt Gay, I'm going to limit to like 30% or something. Yeah, and then Zach Ertz, I'm going to limit to maybe 25%. That's what I'll do. Maximum flex. Maybe 25% Matt Gay. And then 25% Zach Ertz. Then I'm going to send 2,000 lineups back to the Shady Portfolio Optimizer. How do you like the 2-game slate versus Showdown or normal slates? If not for doing content on them, like I used to really enjoy these 2-game slates. It's so much more work for me that it's sort of hard to separate, but I enjoy them. Like I think that there's pretty big edge on these 2-game slates. I think I like them a little bit worse than Showdown, because like Showdown is just it's the one game, a little bit unique in the structure, easy to avoid dupes and still make really strong lineups. I think that I just have a better handle on Showdown because I've played so many more Showdown slates. I've always kind of liked the 2-game slates, but I think I prefer like a 3-gamer where like players can really get lost in the shuffle. They sometimes do on these, but not always. Ooh, low dollars DraftKings simulator. Would you prefer Odunze captain with Caleb or Jaden captain with Debo? I think I prefer the Odunze captain with Caleb side, but it's pretty close. Like Jaden obviously looks great at captain also. But yeah, I think I have a slight preference for Odunze captain. How do you feel about the 2-gamers versus the Showdown? I feel like people have really mixed opinions about them. Knox for 6. I don't think I had any knocks in like best ball this year. Unlike years past where I would have really loved a Knox touchdown. All right, let's get these lineups in. Smaller and weirder slates. Yeah. This honestly is kind of a fun slate. Again, I would have like it's tough with doing 4 hours of content like I did today. So it's like it's a different thing where it's just like I'm on either writing or doing streams all day, which like I enjoy them, but like Showdown, it's less work. Adam and I do a 1-hour stream. I do an hour and a half as opposed to like 2 hours with Adam. I'm doing what, 2.5, over 2.5 now, I think, in this stream. I think maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 hours on this stream, but it becomes a lot of work just because I'm trying to cover all 3 slates, I guess. So that's my own decision. All right, I'm just going to download these. Let's see. Download the CSV. Not sure if I did that right. Still getting used to the filters because these look like they're the same lineups. Let's see. Yeah, I think I might have just downloaded the same lineups. So I might have to go figure out how to download the filtered lineups. But for now, I am going to call it for the stream. I'm exhausted. So I appreciate you all. Thank you all for hanging out with me for this. Yeah, I guess under 2-hour stream. So we're 4 hours of streaming today. Appreciate you, Chris. It's a good time, but I want to get to watching some football and eating some food is what I really need to do now. So appreciate you. If you would like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. I'll be back I think tomorrow with Mathology to do the Dog Bowl contest breakdown. We have a special guest on again this week, and then I'll be back on this channel on Thursday for Thursday Night Football. Thanks, everybody. Good luck tonight. Let's win some money. Check out the Flaniverse Discord if you're interested. That is link in description. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you later.